West Coast, 3 o'clock at the White House, where we're getting reaction now to the report that President Trump's former campaign chairman talked about cutting a deal with the feds before a jury convicted him. Now Paul Manafort getting ready for a second trial. Also, word the Vatican had knowledge of the cover-up of the sexual abuse of more than 1,000 children by priests in Pennsylvania. That accusation from the state's attorney general, who says he has evidence. He'll join us live in studio just days after a former top Vatican official called for Pope Francis to resign. Let's get to it.
Now, Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck.
And first from the Fox News deck this afternoon, a tearful goodbye to Senator John McCain on the Senate floor as his longtime friend, Senator Lindsey Graham, stood next to McCain's empty desk, draped in black with white roses.
It is going to be a lonely journey for me for a while. I'm going to need your help. And the void to be filled by John's passing is more than I can do. Don't look to me to replace this man. Look to me to remember what he was all about and try to follow in his footsteps. If you want to help me, join the march. If you want to help the country, be more like John McCain. I believe there's a little John McCain in all of us. And the little John McCain, practiced by a lot of people, can make this a really great nation.
The tributes keep pouring in from both sides of the political aisle in all corners of the world for the war hero and lion of the Senate who died over the weekend after ending treatment for brain cancer. Our chief congressional correspondent, Mike Emanuel, knew him well. He's live on Capitol Hill. Mike?
Shep, good afternoon. The one in particular we were waiting for was from Senator Lindsey Graham, the Republican of South Carolina, who you just heard from there. They were best friends here in the United States Senate. Graham gave McCain's life a military nickname, calling it Operation Maverick. And Graham was very emotional when talking about McCain's example in terms of picking yourself up after failures.
He taught me that honor and imperfection are always in competition. I do not cry for a perfect man. I cry for a man who had honor and always was willing to admit to his imperfection.
Plenty of Democrats also emotional about Senator John McCain's passing. We heard great emotion from Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor late yesterday. Another colleague, Chris Coons of Delaware, talked about the impact of McCain's passing.
Losing him has been something that, although we all knew it was coming at some point this year, has been, I think, difficult for many senators who served alongside him. It is my hope that we are not seeing the passing of the last of the great senators who are able and willing to put country above party and above self.
Losing John McCain was not a surprise after more than a year fighting brain cancer, but he was still actively engaged, working the phones, calling his colleagues up until the final weeks. But now that he is gone, the shock is beginning to sink in. Shep?
There had been discussion, Mike, of changing the name of the Russell office building where John McCain had his office and his committee did business for a long time. Is that still a matter of discussion?
It is a matter of discussion. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has been leading the charge, saying it would be appropriate to rename the building, the Russell Senate office building, in honor of John McCain. McCain's office has been in the Russell building for many, many years. It is also the home of the Senate Armed Services Committee, where McCain served as the ranking member and ultimately as its chairman. So Schumer making the case it would be wise to change the name. A number of Democrats are on board with it. So are some Republicans. Other Republicans say they would like to talk to their colleagues about perhaps some other type of honor after the funeral, once they have the possibility of speaking to his family about what they would like in McCain's honor. But bottom line, it's still an active discussion, and it sounds like one way or another, there will be some kind of permanent tribute to John McCain here on Capitol Hill. Shep?
Mike Emanuel live for us. Thank you. Some breaking news and a live look at the White House, where we're waiting to hear from President Trump. We're told we'll hear from him in just minutes. He's hosting the president of FIFA, the international organization that puts on the World Cup and has had so much controversy in and of itself. But we're expecting reporters to ask about a lot more than soccer. President Trump has been facing enormous backlash over his response to the death of the war hero and Senator John McCain. Now, in what could be an attempt to distract, the president is stirring up a new feud with Google, accusing them, on Twitter of course, of rigging search results so that all the news stories that show up about him are negative. According to Google, this is not a real thing at all. Here's President Trump's chief economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, who may not have heard about this when a reporter asked him about the president's tweet, which said the situation, quote, will be addressed.
Does the president believe, or does the administration feel that there needs to be some form of regulation for Google, or what exactly was the president referring to?
We'll let you know. We're taking a look at it. We'll let you know.
We'll let you know. This would not be the first time that President Trump caught his advisors off guard with a tweet. Far from it. Our chief White House correspondent, John Roberts, is live there. It feels like another one. Well, you tell me, what is this?
Well, it's one of those things that happens almost every day where the president gets up, he doesn't like the coverage, and so he says something about it. He did address this very briefly in that Oval Office pool spray along with the president of FIFA. I just have a quick little note on it that says Google, etc., treading on troubled territory. We'll get more when we get the play out of that. But the president basically thinking that Google is involved in a conspiracy to put bad news about him high on its Google search engine and to suppress the voices of conservative media outlets that might be more favorable to him. The president somehow going to Twitter twice with the same lengthy complaints this morning saying, quote, Google search results for Trump news shows only the viewing reporting of fake news media. In other words, they have it rigged for me and others so that almost all stories and news is bad. Fake CNN is prominent. Republican/conservative and fair media is shut out. Illegal? 96% of results on Trump news are from national left-wing media. Very dangerous. Google and others are suppressing voices of conservatives and hiding information in news that is good. They are controlling what we can and cannot see. This is a very serious situation, will be addressed. Now, the White House did not say how this will be addressed, but if you do a Google search, and we did one within the last hour, currently what you're getting is mostly a lot of stories about President Trump and these new accusations about Google's. You get a lot of stories about his complaints there. You also get those stories on why Trump can't perform his job. Has he been a Russian asset since 1987? Stories about his marriage to Melania and other ones that you would probably put in the negative category. Google denies any political motivation or agenda in its search results. Listen to this Google spokesperson here.
Search is not used to set a political agenda, and we don't bias our results towards any political ideology. Every year, we issue hundreds of improvements to our algorithms to ensure that they surface high-quality content in response to users' queries.
Got to take Google at its word here, because the only thing more closely guarded than the secret formula for Coca-Cola is the Google search algorithm, Shep. But that's what both sides are saying this afternoon.
KFC original recipe, too. You know,
that too, yes.
You know, Maggie Haberman and others, many others report the president doesn't even use a computer. I mean, how does he know?
Yeah, well, he gets all the reports every day. What's interesting is the president is still one of those people who quaintly read the newspaper every day. I remember delivering a bundle of newspapers to Sean Spicer that were lying on the floor outside his office one day. I said, why are you reading the newspaper? He said, because the president reads the newspaper, and I need to know, as the press secretary, how he is looking at the news, so I need to read the newspaper as well. So he says, did you see that story on page A3? I know what he's talking about. But as to how he sees all these Google results, I assume that they're probably passed along to him from his social media guru, Dan Scavino, and others.
A lot of talk around there about trade today, John.
Yeah, and really the White House is putting pressure on two fronts here. First of all, on Canada. By boxing Canada out of the deal with Mexico, the president has now put pressure on Canada to come to the table to either sign on to this deal or face tariffs against its automobiles of some 25%. Chrystia Freeland, who is the minister for...
We're going to have to protect our own workers, and on and on and on. I mean, I just think it's a very pro-growth. It shows you two sides with goodwill can sit down and work out what is essentially a free trade deal, fair trade, and get it going.
All right, so here's what here's the game that the White House is up to. They're right now shelving talks about trade with China, and the president is saying no reason to have them. He doesn't think they're going to go anywhere. Meantime, he cuts a trade deal with Mexico. He hopes to cut a trade deal with Canada. He hopes to cut a trade deal with the European Union, and he hopes to cut a trade deal with Japan to really kind of more level out the playing field, and then go to China and say, everybody else is playing ball with us. You better do it too. Shep?
John Roberts at the White House, where the president has just met with the FIFA representative. And I'm told he talked about Google. So we're about to have one of those playback situations from the White House in just a matter of seconds. We'll let you hear it in its entirety.
Well, thank you very much. We very much appreciate the fact that we have won a very important event, the World Cup in 2026. And we'll be hosting it along with Mexico and Canada. And it's a very special event. I think it's probably certainly one of the biggest and maybe the biggest sporting event in the world. And soccer's come such a long way. Soccer is a game, I guess you call it football.
Yeah.
But over here, maybe at some point they'll change the name. I'm not sure.
Let's see.
But we'll see.
We can negotiate that.
It's working very well either way. But I just want to thank Gianni Infantino for being here. He's the president of FIFA and a highly respected man. In fact, when my son heard he was going to be here, he said, Dad, I'd like to meet him. So you're pretty famous, right?
Yeah.
Pretty important, you're pretty famous. He likes, my son Barron loves soccer. And soccer has to be one of the fastest growing sports in the world. And the job you've done is really fantastic, Gianni. So thank you very much. And I want to also pay my respect to Carlos Cordeiro, who as president in this country of soccer, has been incredibly instrumental in helping us to get the World Cup. And he's worked so hard, so long, and they were calling me constantly to try and get me to come on board, but it only took one call, because when I heard World Cup, I wanted to do it. And again, we want to thank you. It's all signed up. It's all set to go. And it'll be a special event. I think it's going to be something really very special. And Gianni, maybe I'd ask you to say a few words, and then Carlos.
Definitely. Well, thanks, President, for welcoming us here. It's a great honor to be here, and thanks for everything you are doing to support our sport as well. Obviously, 2026, the World Cup, the biggest event, sporting event for sure, but probably even social event in the world. We just had the World Cup in Russia, more than 4 billion viewers. The final only over 1 billion viewers. It's massive, it's huge. So in Russia, President, we said that we would organize the best World Cup ever, right? And we did organize the best World Cup ever.
Right.
In the US, together with Canada and Mexico, we want to organize the greatest World Cup ever, if you agree. And for this, we will work together and do whatever we can to make sure that this will be a fantastic event. But I'm looking very, very much forward, and the world is looking very much forward to that.
It's very exciting. Everybody's talking about it, and it's very exciting. And Carlos?
Well, Mr.